we got a lot of ice dams going on, so I've had some requests to make a video about ice damming. So let's look at what's going on here. So essentially what's happening is it's a very cold day, so none of this snow is melting. It's single digits. So the only place it is melting is the roof snow. So we got heat loss going up through the roof because of insulation, and then once it melts, it comes down the roof, and once it gets to this overhang, there's no warm house under it, so it's going to freeze up. So you start to develop this big brim of ice, right? That's the part of the roof that's cold. And so as that brim develops, water gets trapped behind it, and this roof is meant to shed water. It's not waterproof. So if you have a lot of water sitting on the roof, it's got nowhere to go, and it's going to make its way up under the shingles. So you can see icicles are a good sign you have an ice dam. You can see not a lot of icicles coming over the gutter. A lot of them are actually going out behind the gutter. So once the water gets into the building, it's either going to come out the wall. So you can see water coming out of the siding and refreezing, right? So we definitely have leakage from this ice dam. And then also coming behind the fascia or even out the soffit area. So the area that hangs past the buildings, the eave, the underside of the eave is the soffit. So that's a soffit vent, and a lot of water is escaping there. So this is definitely an ice dam leakage issue. We definitely have water infiltration. And so there's different ways to fix this. The number one way to fix it would be with insulation. So we want to keep that heat in the house. If we had a really good air sealed lid, like no air leaks, and good insulation above it, that's going to keep a lot of heat in the house. And then above that, for the unconditioned part of the attic, if we had vents where any heat that gets past the insulation can get out, those systems work together to keep the attic the same temperature as outside. And so that is ultimately what causes ice damming. So insulation is really the issue here. The other solution that's, I would say one of the better solutions would be replacing the roof. So today's code requires a waterproof shingle underlayment, like an ice and water shield, that's a brand name, close to the roof edge. There's a certain distance off the roof where we require that, and it's for exactly this reason. It makes those lower shingles waterproof rather than shedding water, and that will prevent, even if you have some ice sitting on the roof, it'll prevent it from working back into the building like it's doing here. Now, if you're watching this video and you have ice damming, it's probably a little bit late to think about insulation improvements or think about re-roofing. So at this point, there's some things you can deal with, the symptoms rather than really fixing the problem. And, that might look like there's calcium chloride pellets, or people even fill stockings and throw them over to melt the snow. There's roof wires. A roof electrician could put in roof wires, obviously not for this storm, but again, that's kind of more of a symptom-based repair. And then lastly, you can either remove the snow, so you stop that snow melt, like roof raking, or you can remove the ice, which would, I've seen people doing up there with chisels trying to chip away at it. So probably the better solution would be like a calcium chloride or something at this point. Not the best. Again, all those symptoms-based solutions aren't really solving the problem, but they're better than doing nothing. The last thing I want to talk to you about is, how we see this during the summer. You can't always, but what you look for is like, this is a lot of weight on the gutter. So I look for a rolled out gutter. Like you can tell the spot with the heaviest dam, that looks like the lowest point of the gutter. So we look for that. We look for drip marks. A lot of times when it hits a window casing like this, it's going to come out from the trim. So if we looked at the inside of this window, we might see little drip marks along the trim. And then the other thing is down at the foundation, all this water in the wall cavity is going to hit that sill area and cause staining and moisture. So if we went down there on a warm day, we'd probably see a bunch of stains. I mean, on a cold day like today, we'd probably see some stains. So this is just, kind of about ice damming, what the problem is, understanding the problem, potential solutions, and then also, what we look for. Hope this is helpful. So just to complete the understanding of the ice dam, so you have the side wall of the building here, right? You got some ceiling framing, and then you have your roof rafters extending off of that. You have your gutter system. And basically what happens is the heat loss is going up from the house, and it's warming just this upper area, this area here. And so this becomes a cold area. And so what happens is the ice builds up, usually starting in the gutter, and you get this dam going, and you get some icicles, which is a good tip off that you have an issue. And as the water continues to melt, you know, basically you're getting a little water trapped right here. And so this is going to work its way up and into the shingles. And then so a lot of it comes out in this soffit area. So this is again the eave, underside of the eave is the soffit. So it'll come out the soffit, usually in the back or by the gutter. But some of it is also going to get into this wall. So a lot of times you'll see icicles right on the face of the building. Another spot is you'll see like a window casing, right? If you have a window here, it's going to hit the top of that frame and it's going to have nowhere to go, so it can drip outward. So if we had a better barrier here to keep the heat in our house, these two surfaces will be the same, and so we won't have the melting and refreezing. Hope this helps. All right, thanks.